This is In the Zone with Ian Robb and Dancin Rodda. One's a mental toughness coach who also helps riders with recovery. The other, a horseman with soul, who is also a marriage counselor for the rider and horses. Together, they dive beyond ribbons and rankings to where real riders train, the mind. From elite arenas to quiet barns, this show is about the mental edge, the recovery rhythm, and the heart that keeps you in sync with your horse and yourself. So whether you're tuning in from the tack room or the open road, saddle up. You're in the zone now.
Hey, Pete, we're here at the World of Question Center here in Ocala in the Beamer Cabin, and I got to tell you, I'm excited about our guest today. We have a legend.
A legend's legend.
A legend's legend, yeah. He's been over 50 years in the industry. He's trained world champions. He's mentored future greats. He's written the books. He's earned nearly every major award Western performance has to offer, Pete. But beyond the titles and beyond the accolades, this man is a true horseman, a mentor, and a master of the mental game.
He's living proof that greatness isn't just about winning. It's about discipline, humility, and learning every single day.
Yeah, so Pete, today we get to ride along one of the greatest minds in Western horsemanship. Saddle up and help us welcome everybody that's listening. Al Dunning, great to meet you.
Nice to be here with you guys. Looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah, this is fun. So our podcast is called In the Zone. So we talk a little bit of the mental mindset and all that stuff. But before we get started, there might be some of these people that are dressage riders or jumpers might not know who Mr. Al Dunning is. Can you give us a little bit of a background of yourself?
I'm just an old cowboy. I kept going and going. So I started riding when I was 12 years old, and I started winning when I was 12. So, and I'm 75 now, and I'm still doing really good. So I don't give up. I've been lucky. I've mentored a lot of guys along the way that work for me that are world champions and Hall of Famers and everything. And I was lucky enough to be in a couple Hall of Fames myself. And, you know, I've had over 50 some odd world and reserve world champions with me and my customers, and in the National Reining Horse Association, National Cutting Horse Association, and the National Rein Cow Horse Association, and the American Quarter Horse Association. So I've kind of spanned and done everything. I'm a guy that is really easy to get bored. Okay. So to stop being bored, I did everything I could do, and I still do everything I could do every day of my life. So I don't want to have any regrets when I'm done, and the only way to do that is head forward.
Well, I think that was a very humble way of explaining what he's done, because if you talk to any of the top guys in the Western, Al Dunning's name comes up every single time. All the podcasts that I watch, Al Dunning's name is always mentioned of that they either rode with you or you mentored them in some way. So
nice. I've been lucky to get around some great people.
Yes, sir.
So growing up in Chicago before your family moved to Arizona, Al, how did that environment contrast and fuel your passion for the Western performance?
Well, it was so simple. When I grew up, you know, I was born in 1950, so here I was, this little kid in Chicago, and every spare moment of my time, I would turn on the TV. In those days, it took a while for the TV to turn on and had the rabbit ears on the top. You know, it was way before your guys' time, obviously. And I watched all the Westerns. You know, I watched the Westerns. And when I got a chance to move to Arizona, you know, all I wanted to be was a cowboy. And so our family bought a $300 horse back in the day, and we did all kinds of gymkhana and riding, and you know, I don't know. I used to dive off the horse's back into the daggum little big pond we had out in the back of the ranch I rode at, and I mean, we were just kids having a good time. And then I started to get around the ropers, and I started roping a lot, and I got around some of the greatest guys that ever walked the earth when it came to roping. Dean Oliver, Dale Smith, Chuck Shepard, those kind of guys that are all icons, Hall of Famers. And anyway, after that period of time, I ran across some horse trainers, and I started seeing about training horses. And so I started showing, and learned how to walk, jog, and lope, stop and turn, do all that kind of stuff like a little kid would do. And then I got interested in reining horses. And I got lucky. I ran across a guy named Jim Paul, and I started riding with him when I was a kid, and taught me how to break horses and taught me how to be tough and get up early and work hard every day. So every spare moment I had, I was out there riding with him. And so he just passed away. His memorial service was yesterday. So I just had to do that. And anyway, I think about him every day, all the things he did for me and how he shaped my life and my career. So that's kind of how I got started. And then, along the way, the only way to get really good at this is to be around people that are really good, that are way better than you, and to be humble and let them work you to death, and never complain. And if they say jump, you say how high. And that's how I ran my life. And I used to watch a lot. I think that's a lot of people, they want to do, and they don't want to learn first. And I wanted to learn first what I was going to do before I started doing something. So I watched some of the greatest hands of all time, and I tried to study them and integrate them into my program. And I was in college by this time, and I decided I was going to be a horse trainer. And I was studying to be other things. Um, I was studying to be either a police officer or personnel director, one of the two. I was heading in that direction. But I'd taken a lot of psychology classes and business classes and things like that. I tried to take some ag classes, but I knew more than the teachers did, so it didn't work out so well. So, but taking those classes, it made me realize that really think about what I wanted to do in my life and what I was really good at and what made me happy. And what made me happy was being with horses and training horses and being around horse people. So in 1970, I started my own training stable and history from there.
Wow. I feel like we could just let him do the whole in the
Exactly.
zone
No.
and not ask any questions, and you could do the whole show. Oh, so take us back to when you were 19 and you were doing your first reining. How did you feel at that moment? Did you know you were going to be as big as you are now? And what's the difference in reining today?
Well, it's interesting. So I started really showing reining horses when I was about 13 or 14, but they were pretty rough. I mean, you ran and they were big block-headed son of a guns, and they weren't trained well, and you just mauled them around and thought you were reining. And then getting around and perfecting that as I continued, by the time I was, say like probably started showing my really good horses when I was about 19. You hit it somehow or another. I don't know how you did that, but
Have a little research.
so what happened was I had ridden some really good horses, and I was working for John Hoyt when I was 19, and John let me show a mare. I had two great horses. I had a great mare myself named Pink Pony, and John had a really great mare named Drift to Smoke. And I took him to the largest show in California in those days, was in Del Mar, California, and I got to show them both. And anyway, I beat some of the great hands that their names are all in the Hall of Fame, and I didn't win first. The best, I think I was third and fifth on those two mares in the championship stake. And I beat so many of the guys that I wasn't really too crazy. But that night I went out and I had a few beers and I thought I was the king of the world. It felt so good that I could compete at that level. So after I screwed my head back on straight, I decided that I was going to dedicate myself to that. And, when I started training horses professionally in 1970, I did halter horses and reining horses. That was my two things. And one day, a friend of mine named Greg Whalen, who's one of the great halter men of all time, came up and he said, "Al, I'm going to tell you something." He said, "You got some great halter horses." He said, "But you're good at this reining and this cow horse and all this all around stuff." He said, "You'll have a great career. If I was you, I'd concentrate on those things. And I would stay away from the halter because it's cyclical. It's going to go up and down, and it's not really of what I see in you." And I thought, so after I walked away from Greg, I knew him pretty good. I thought, is he tricking me because I'm beating him, or is he really telling me the truth? After a while, it soaked in. He was telling me the truth, so I quit the halter horses and concentrated strictly on the performance horses. And so there was all kinds of little turning points in my career. I think everybody has that, to where you go along and all of a sudden you can take the exit, okay, off of your path, and you can get into unknown territory. Sometimes those exits are really good for you, and sometimes those exits can ruin you. But if you have a positive attitude toward it, and you have the capability to already have all that in plan, I think it can work for you. And so what I did then, I said, okay, here's my plan. Is I'm going to train performance horses. I'm going to marry my girlfriend, and I'm going to concentrate on what I'm doing right here. I'm trying to be the best I can do. And I'm going to be different than the rest of these guys. I'm not going to hang out at the bars. I'm not going to chase women. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to work. And I kind of learned that through Jim Paul and John Hoyt, the guys that mentored me. So I just called Becky up on the phone, asked her if she'd go out. So I took her out up on the mountain and asked her to marry me. And anyway, thank God, said yes. I was kind of worried about it. We've been married 54 years now.
Wow.
Becky showed all my hunt seat horses. I trained English horses, jumping horses, everything in those days. And she showed all the English horses and jumpers and all that stuff. And I did all the stock horses, all the reining horses, and then I had kids. I've always wanted to teach, so I had several kids in training. So that was kind of part of it.
So you would say, to be successful or in the zone, you should get a good woman.
Well, I don't know anybody that in my career, I mean, I'm sure there's got to be somebody that goes off track like that, but there's a saying, behind every good man is a good woman. And I totally believe that. And you got to be equally yoked. Becky and I believe in the same thing. We believe in the faith that we have. We believe in sticking together in the worst times. We believe in that everything can be worked out with time. We believe in not fighting. We believe in trying to, there's times, obviously, we believe in it. Doesn't always happen, because, yeah. But we have some strong beliefs that if you love and relax and think it over and don't react too quick to things, you can just about work anything out. And we feel that with our faith, our family, our horses, everything else we do.
So I've listened to a few of your people that you've brought to the world champions, and a lot of them talk about the horse they took the risk on, the horse that made them something. So tell us a little bit about the horses that you feel put you in those places.
Well, in about that time we talked about first there, 68, 69, I ran into a guy in California named George Texera. George was a Portuguese that was a real good hand. He showed there in Southern California. Anyway, I stayed at a place called Shamwell Ranch with him and rode with him a little bit. And he had a little mare named Stormy Pink, and her show name in those days, the American Horse Show Association, you could say the horse's name was Stormy Pink, but he showed her under the name Pink Pony. Okay. That was at the open shows. Now, obviously at the quarter horse shows, I had to show her under Stormy Pink. So, and she's a Palomino, but when you wet her down, she looked pink because her skin underneath was really pink. Anyway, make a long story short, I fell in love with that horse, and I asked George if I could buy her, and I did. And she was really the first stock horse to put me on the map. And now you're calling it a reining horse, but back in those days, in the West Coast, it was called stock horse. And there was reason why, is because why do we run and stop and turn? Well, we run and stop and turn. We do those kind of things because you have to work cattle. You have to work stock. Okay. So it was to emulate the the motions and the duties of a horse working in the field with a cow, basically. So anyway, Pink Pony was my first turning point because I loved her. I think she loved me too. I mean, she was one that when I turned out to run in the ring, I'd give her a little, and she'd run up and just slide right up and right to my chest, end up touching my chest with her nose running wide open. I'd just stand there. Luckily, she didn't run me over, but she'd end up with her nose right against my chest.
So you were doing the freestyle reining before it was popular at Liberty.
Oh, geez, she was, yeah, yeah. So anyway, I think I won 21 reignings in a row and stock horse classes on her, and here I was just beginning my career, and I had a lot of help from John Hoyt and Jim Paul in those days, kind of mentoring me through that, putting her in the bridle, and because of her, I got other horses in training because they said, well, once you kind of get going and you're the new dog in town, everybody wants to jump on board with you. So I started with 3 horses in training that day. Said I was going to go, and I ended up with a barn full with just in a couple of months after I started, which was kind of neat. So, and go ahead.
No, go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead.
Along the way, I'll tell you another one that happened that was really cool. So along the way, I had a customer call me up and say, a guy, I knew who he was, and he said, I want you to train our horses. So they've been in California. We want to move them to Arizona. And my barn was full. So, and I knew the guy, but I didn't know his horses very well. So I told him, I said, I just really can't. I promised myself I would only keep this like 15 horses in training, and I wasn't going to do any more. And I did it all myself. And my wife helped me when she could, but so this guy said, however long it takes, I want you. So I'll wait. So I went home and proudly told my wife about it. She says, Al, you call that guy up right now and you tell him to bring his horses. Anybody who would act like that, he sounds like a guy that would stick with you and help you with your career and everything else. So his name was Buddy Stewart. I called Buddy back up. I said, Buddy, I made room for your horses, bring them. So a couple of days later, he brought the horses over. Well, to make a long story short, along the way, I won on the horses he sent me, but I said, you need to get a really good horse. These are good, but I mean, I think you guys need a better horse. So he said, you pick it, I'll buy it. So I went and I found a horse named Expensive Hobby. And that horse is, I don't know, I figured at one time I showed him 110 times and won 100 firsts. And that's ridiculous,
Right.
Half the time he lost, those tens were my fault. I went off pattern, I did something dumb, or something. So he was just great. He's in the Hall of Fame of the AQHA, and I won the Congress. I won open reignings, open stock horse. He was retired at Del Mar and in front of like Brooke Shields was there and Buddy Ebsen and all these kind of celebrities were there, and everybody was crying when I was retiring him. So it was a big deal. So those are those are 2 of the really great horses I had in my early career that really shaped my career and gave me the confidence to go forward.
I kind of remember Expensive Hobby. I lived in San Diego for a long time too, my friend. And I'm just curious, what qualities in him made you see greatness from the start? Like, what did you see in Expensive Hobby?
Well, I've never wanted a dull horse. I've always wanted a horse with a little spark in him. And Expensive Hobby was one of those that had he felt like when you rode him, like anything could happen at any time, So he just had that kind of sensitivity. All those guys that believe in all that, desensitizing the horse thing. Well, they're not real horsemen, first of all. They just want to trail ride around. But you want a horse to really perform for you, he's got to have a lot of feel. Well, Expensive Hobby had that quality. I mean, he was real feely. Yeah, you had to be careful with what you did. You had to really be thoughtful with him. You could never harm him in any way. You could ask him and teach him, but you couldn't be rough with him. And he was so giving. He wanted to give, but you had to like show your appreciation for him by, riding him on a looser rein or, using very light leg and, being real careful with your feet and your spur or whatever it is. And he just had that kind of super sensitivity. And we fit like a glove, The guy that started him was the great Mel Lawson, who does the NRHA trophy called Lawson Bronze, for the winners. And um, Mel's a great hand. But after I bought him, Mel said, Al, he said that I don't know. He said, I think I did a decent job, but that horse fit you like a glove, he said. So, that horse just gave me so much confidence. So after that, I never tried to compare the other horses after that to him because I had a lot of other great horses. But I guess that horse is closer to my heart than any of the rest just because he was the one that, you know, I mean, he's been in magazines. I had a busload of daggum Chinese people come into the ranch with cameras around their neck. They'd heard of it. They go, expensive hobby. They wanted to see my cowboy, wear my cowboy hat and stand and take pictures with a busload of these people with expensive hobby. It was crazy. Stuff like that. And he was on the cover of my first reining book and that I wrote with Western Horseman. And he's just, that horse is an icon.
So, in your showing career, how did you get into the zone to get in there and do as well as you do? Do you have a secret beginning before you go in?
Do you have any mental prep routine that you would do?
I think what it was that I had this. I'm a little. I don't know what they call that. OCD or whatever like that, where I've got to have all my ducks in a row. So I always, before the show, I knew exactly what saddle I was going to put on each horse. I knew exactly which pad. I knew exactly which bridle. I had exactly the boots I was going to use on them. I had all this stuff in my head. I had I'm a little superstitious. With expensive hobby, I had a pair of red socks I wore. And when I wore a hole in those daggum red socks, I'd put them on under and then put my other socks on over them. until until I wore out so bad I couldn't use them. Then I got better about those red sock idea. I had a shirt that had stripes on it that I won every stock horse stake class in a row on, like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 or so. And I was in Reno at a show and I had taken it off. And in those days, they had the old heaters in the room, and I had set it and it burned up. So I had to switch shirts and I ended up reserve champion at that show. So, yeah, but after that, I started but I've always had that mojo to think about being prepared. Being prepared is very important. Not doing any more than I prepared to do. Having the right mindset with each horse. I had a horse. So you guys heard of the King Ranch, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yes.
One of the most biggest, most famous. One of the heirs to King Ranch was a guy named Bobby Shelton, and Bobby owned a ranch called Shelton Ranch in Kerrville, Texas. He sent me a horse named Moving Milligan. Matter of fact, I do a lot of social media stuff. We used him on my Throwback Thursdays today. But Moving Milligan was by this Leonard Milligan horse that was a super horse in the AQHA. But he was big, had big feet, kind of a little clunky, big headed, just not your typical horse, performance horse like I like. But this was a very talented animal, and I wanted to train a really good horse for Bobby Shelton because he was such a cool guy, and had such great history. So I worked real hard on that horse, not rough, but I worked steady, and he Moving Milligan started working pretty good. But I showed him the first time, and I showed him nice and smooth, and I was ended up reserve champion at the California Cutting Horse Fraternity. After that, I think I was fourth at Pacific Coast fraternity. Well, and I was just showing him real easy. Okay. I got a little big headed, and so I thought now I can really step old, and I'm winning some pretty good bucks on him. So the next show I went and I called on him. I kicked him past that cow and I sat down hard, and he kept just flopping around him, missing. Just it was horrible. That horse taught me that I should show every horse for just what they're capable of and not try to redline every horse. Try to make them more comfortable. And then I would be comfortable and they would be comfortable. Instead, when you overdo, if you try to show like you didn't practice, if you try to see other people and say they marked a 75, I got to mark a 76. Well, maybe you only have the horse this today marked 73, but you're still going to win a big check. And that horse taught me that I should never overload a boat on any horse. I should just ride each horse for what they had in them and not try to overdo. Because Leonard Milligan, if I tried to ride him for a 72, would usually mark a 73. If I tried to ride him for a 74, he'd probably mark a 71. That's how it all went. So he taught me a lot. So those are the kind of things I think about when I show, is that being prepared, showing for your horse exactly like you practiced, never do what everybody else is doing, stay within yourself, and and just try to remember one thing at a time. I think really good horse showmen or have a real short memory. If you make a mistake, you forget about it and you just go on. I think I had a kid ride. I'll tell you another kind of cool story. I had a kid riding with me one time, and this kid was so talented. And I had a really good horse I trained for him, and he was beating everybody. This guy comes up to me and he says, "Hey, you ought to talk to that boy and tell him to not be so arrogant." And I got to thinking about it, and I thought, yeah, he's pretty arrogant, but he's winning. I said, I think I will. I'll talk to him. As soon as he stops winning, I'll tell him to quit being so arrogant. Anyway,
You're not
that
showing off if you can do it.
yeah. So I mean, I didn't want to take his mojo away. That was that kid's mojo. So everybody has their thing.
So, all the world champions that you have come through your barn, what advice do you give them for getting in the zone? Is it the same, or did you modify it for each individual?
Everybody's different. That's nobody. All those guys that work for me, I had some work for me for 10 years or more, and nobody trains just like me. Nobody rides just like me. They're all got a lot of what I got, but hopefully what I got them more was the basics. The basics were important. So showmanship wise in their heads, everybody shows, and usually there's some beginner's luck involved. They go out there, they really don't know what they're doing. When they start having a little that they're over that, then they start overthinking it. And then pretty soon it's a mess for a while. And everybody has to kind of go through that. But what I did, I tried to teach them the best, but just like my horses, when they showed, I tried to leave them alone. I tried not to holler at them and say, Ian, doggone it, get over there to that side better because you're not riding the horse to the left, or whatever it is, whatever. I would just let it go. I'd let them fight it out. And then I'd take and show them their video and say, do you see what you need to do better? And the good guys, the guys that made world champions and Hall of Famers and everything like that, they understood it and they could see it and feel it and know what to do next. And, I think there's a maturation for everybody. And like I said, you can't get so wound up because you don't do well the first time, or you can't be so wound up that you think everybody's watching you. That I think the worst thing that any showman does with horses is they worry what you say about them.
Yes, sir.
You can't do that. You have to show for yourself. I'm going to tell you guys a couple real quick stories, if it's okay.
Yes, sure, definitely.
So
You're making one of our best shows. Keep going, Al.
yeah. Let's start with this one I told you about earlier, okay?
Yes, sir.
So 1981, I did a clinic at Texas A&M University, and they gave me a horse that was a bad horse, and I rode out in front of about 5,000 spectators who are going to watch me do a clinic. And I'd had a cold, and I'd take some antihistamine, so I was a little bit off in the head, and I had a hackamore on this horse, and I walked out, and he flipped his head a couple times, and I went, "Hey!" And I kind of picked the reins up and bumped him, and he flipped right over backwards and landed. The horn hit me in the stomach, paralyzed me from the waist down. To make a long story short, I recovered from that. I finished the clinic sitting in a chair. They drained all this blood off my bladder and all that stuff, poked a hole in it. I was black and blue from my chest down to my knees almost.
Hmm.
But anyway, time went on. I healed up. But in 1985, so a few years later, 4 or so years later, I turned around to talk to a guy. I was sitting on a horse and I ruptured those two discs in my back that were injured when the horse fell over. They rushed me. I was in, where was I? I was in Texas somewhere. Anyway, they rushed me home, flew me home, and next morning I had double laminectomy on L4 and 5 and 5 and 1. So took two discs out of my back. I made the decision that not have any rods or screws or anything put in, but just suffer through it. In those days, they didn't have all the cushions replacements and stuff, so scar tissue was going to fill it in. Spent a month in a body cast and in bed, and through that, the doctor said you should never ride again. So it's pretty simple to get depressed over something like that because this is what I was good at. I was in the heart of my career. Um,
Sure.
I'd pretty much had won everything I'd tried to win in those days. So to think I was done depressed me pretty good. So I went to the doctor. I started having panic attacks. And I went to the doctor and he said, "Hey, you're physically fine." He said, "It's all in your head." He said, "You got to go to see somebody." So he gave me a name of a lady and I went to see her, a psychologist. And she helped me a lot. She told me anxiety was going to become my friend. It was going to benefit me rather than hurt me. It was going to tell me stuff that I needed to know. I was more aware of my body than ever before and all that. I was really mad at her. I wanted to choke her, but she was ended up being right. So because all I wanted to be is back to where I was. Okay, but a couple things happened about that. I think that whole incident made me a better person. That's number one. The second thing is it changed my path a little bit because she told me if I wanted to win again, that I needed to go and I needed to study my past accomplishments and I need to watch the videos of my best runs. I needed to look at the win pictures and I needed to not think about how my horse worked, but thought about how I how I felt going in, how I prepared and why I did it and try to remember that how it was when you were doing it and then how it was afterwards and what it did for the inside of me. Put that in my head and I went through that for a while and I had some great talks with her for a little while and then pretty soon I'll tell you what I did. I decided to go instead of going to the big shows when I was just coming back from the industry, I went to a couple of smaller shows and I won. And I thought, okay, I'll be okay. I'm going to be back. My back still hurts, but I can do this. 2 months after I'd had that back surgery and had gone through all this pain and suffering and talked to the people and talked to that lady, it helped me. That's when I showed Moving Milligan and was reserve champion at the California cutting fraternity. So that kind of got me back. My back bothered me. So I went into a workout program. I met a personal trainer that was an ex-Olympian and I went into a workout program to strengthen my back and get my core set. And I'm 75 years old. That happened when I was 35, and I'm still riding every day. So lots. So that's kind of what happened to me. But for you guys that are out there that are listening to this, you really can't let anybody tell you when it's time to stop. or when you can't do something. Because for me, I've never thought there was something I couldn't do there. I knew there were some things like I wanted to be a professional basketball player, but I knew I wasn't big enough. I knew I couldn't shoot good enough. I wasn't fast enough. But that didn't deter me from being a pretty good basketball player. Um, but what I was good at was horses, and what I was good at was helping people. So I thought about that, and that was the path I took. And then next thing I could suggest to you is that you have to surround yourself with the right people. Positive people make positive thoughts. And so you get around guys that try to tell you, you know, not pat you on the back, but tell you the truth, support you in the right way. Those are the right kind of people. But, people that have a bad mate, wife, husband, whatever it is, they surround themselves with some people. One of the dumbest things I ever did, a really rich guy. I mean, this guy was daggum really rich. He came to me and he offered me all kinds of stuff. And I kind of fell for it a little bit for a while, and because it looked like this guy could get me the right horses and set my career in the right way. But he also wasn't a good guy. And I figured that out after a while. He was trying to buy me, basically. The best thing I ever did was tell him to hit the road, and I went on myself because there wasn't any of my people I knew that were around me that liked this guy. So basically, a bad apple spoils the whole batch. You got to remember that.
Yes, sir.
I've seen it happen so many times that a person has one customer, one horse, one something in their life that messes up the whole deal. You can't let that happen. You're better off, it's when you lose something like that, you usually gain something a lot better. So that's how I look at it. But I don't know. There's been so many things happen in my life. I can go on, you guys.
Al, we're definitely going to have you back if that's okay, but we're going to ask you just a few more questions. And I think this is important for a lot of the horsemen people, a lot of the trainers, how are you taking care of yourself physically? And how are you taking care of your horses, all that stuff? Are you doing things in particular that you find are helping you on out?
It's interesting. After all this back problem I had, I knew I had to stay physically fit. I couldn't get heavy. I'm a big guy. I'm 225, 6'3", but I go to the gym 3 times a week, work out. As soon as I'm done with you guys here today, I'm heading to the gym. I do all kinds of stuff. I try to eat pretty good. I'm not into, you know,
Kale? You're not into kale?
no, I'm not into kale. So I do eat a lot of salads and stuff like that, but I mean, at least I try to moderate myself a little bit. But I do all kinds of stuff. Beamer is one of the things. I know you're a Beamer guy, so that's interesting because, I do whatever I can to my horses, to myself, and having that Beamer outfit where I put those Beamer blankets and the legs wraps on the horses, and I was sold on it because they'd put their head down and they go to drool and their lip would hang down. I think, gosh, it's so relaxing. So I tried it myself, and it has helped my back. I don't drool that much like the horse did,
But you put your head down, right?
so I've got it in my recliner chair at home.
Yes.
I
The
love
human set team, the human set, not the horse set. We got to be clear about this.
Yeah, the human set.
Yeah. I just want to make sure everyone understands. You're not just wrapping yourself up like a big
So
taco.
I really dig it. I've listened. I've been around a long time doing this, and so many people come up with so much voodoo BS that I only go for stuff that works. And I don't believe in it. I don't care if somebody wants to. I had a Chinese company come to me and want to build the cheapest saddle and put my name on it, and they offered me a ton. I probably should have taken it, but I couldn't. I just couldn't do it because I couldn't put my name on that. And I've seen so many stuff like that. I can't prostitute myself in any way. But with a company, with a product that works, I'm all in. And that's why if you go to my website, aldunning.com, you'll see my sponsors and you'll see the quality of them. And there's not one of them, any of you guys or anybody out there could say, boy, that's a junky company or whatever like that. Every one of them have total validity. And that's the way I felt about Beamer too. I tried it. I didn't believe in it till I tried it. Myself and the horses made sure it worked, but it works.
Well, I want to say this because I want to thank Wendy McLaughlin that brought you to Beamer, that got you involved with Beamer as an ambassador for a while. So she's a star in my eyes. And so I wanted, if she's going to listen to this, hopefully we want to say
that's good. Well, she's a good lady. You know, that everybody that involved so far with that Beamer they're just such good people and they believe in it like I do. So anyway, we were just at the Run for a Million in Vegas, and Beamer had a setup up there, and I was able to go by. But every time I went there, everybody was in the chairs enjoying themselves, so because, it works.
Well, before you go, we got some fun questions for you. And if you ever make it here to Ocala at the World Equestrian Center, then you have to come to our cabin as well.
I can't wait.
You want to ask this fun question right here?
So if your clinic had a theme song, what would it be?
If my clinic had a theme song,
so when you do clinics, if you could have a theme song that people know what they're going to get out of this, what would it be?
Well, I'm not that good on music stuff, but it would probably be Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Okay.
That would probably get it back.
That's a pretty good one. Okay.
All right. Another one. What's the most cowboy thing you've ever said in public that made everyone go silent?
Wow. You guys should have warned me about these. These are good. Okay. So I don't know. I probably made them go silent when something happened somewhere and I told somebody the absolute truth. That'll make you go silent because so many people want to flirt around it, and I'm pretty much black and white, meat and potatoes. So I'll tell you straight up.
All right, you get a trail ride with 3 legends, living or dead. Who's your saddle crew? Who you riding with?
Boy, if I really had the 3, I'm going to tell you that they would be arguing all the time about horses or something or their ideas.
Wait, that's anybody you bring on the trail ride. Come on.
I would pick my mentors. I'd pick Jim Paul, John Hoyt, and Don Dodge. I'd pick the 3 mentors that mentored me in my life because they meant so much to me and I'd want to be with them.
Okay, so now I'm going to add the 3 that you have mentored. Who would be the 3?
Wow. I'm not going to tell you that because I've mentored so many guys. As soon as I leave one out, they'll be pissed.
Exactly. I was like,
that's a real trick question. I'll just ride with you guys. How's that?
Okay.
All right. Fair enough. That's good. So it's been an honor to have you on our show today. We really appreciate the history and all the training you've done. We have so many more questions, Al, but we're kind of running out of time. So if it's all right with you, can we have you come back another time?
Sure, I'll do it again with you guys. You guys were fun. Hey, listen, I'll do it, but no more trick questions, okay?
Well, we'll
let you know to be prepared for them.
Okay, we'll prepare you for the next trick ones.
All right. So today we ride along one of the greatest minds of Western horsemanship, and we got to say goodbye to Al Dunning.
I think it was an honor and a privilege to listen to your answers and stories. And it got me in the zone.
Thanks.
I'm ready to get back out there, and I can't wait till I start teaching tomorrow. I really appreciate it.
So the podcast called In the Zone, huh?
Yes, yeah. So I was funny to say it's whether they're pro or showing, but if you're listening, people are going to learn a lot from you, Al. You got a lot to say. So we want to share that with people. Sure. Is there any clinics coming up before we go? Anything that you're doing that people can come find you at?
No.
Perfect. Only
I got one more clinic this year. I got one more clinic in Wisconsin. It's through the Purina company, and it's I don't know where. It's in a place called Loyal, Wisconsin. So anyway, they hired me a while back. I'm trying not to do too many clinics anymore. I'd rather people come here to the ranch, and I'm trying to be sort of semi-retired. Only ride 5 or 6 horses a day, and only give like 3 or 4 lessons a day, and play golf a little more. So there you go.
Sounds great. Al, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
That's a wrap on another powerful episode of In the Zone with Ian Robb and Dancin Pete Rodda. Whether you ride, compete, or simply love your animals like family, today's episode was a reminder that true teamwork starts with connection and that health is the ultimate performance edge. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. And catch us next time as we dive deeper into the mind, body, and bold journeys of top performers. Until then, stay focused, stay inspired, and keep riding in the zone.